SalesStar Podcast, Episode 4, Systems and KPIs.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. In today's podcast, we're going to be exploring the importance of having the right systems and KPIs to keep you on track, to make your budget, and to smash your results in a consistent manner. Today, we have our guest, Alex Chan, Director of Learning and Development for SalesStar. Welcome, Alex.
Good to be here again, Paul.
Fantastic to have you. Today, look, we're going to wrestle down one question that keeps coming up from sales managers time and time again, and that is the question on what is the biggest problem, the biggest challenge that most sales managers have in developing high-performing sales teams to really smash their targets in a consistent manner.
Well, I can tell you from experience with working with the training team and with the business advisory team, Paul, so commonly, so frequently, the number one issue that keeps coming up is that well-intended sales managers are not holding the team accountable.
So they're not holding the team accountable, and why do you think they're not holding them accountable?
They don't know how to measure accountability. We're talking about KPIs here, key performance indicators. They're insufficient, or they're not using them.
They're insufficient. So I guess one of the challenges is what is a key performance indicator? Mm-hmm. Where do most companies get it wrong?
Well, a key performance indicator obviously it speaks for itself. It literally manages the performance of the team's success and of the team's activity.
Yeah.
Now, where do they get it wrong? What they do is they measure very important things. They measure financial KPIs, financial key performance indicators, such as budget year-to-date actual compared to budget, sales year-to-date, sales this month, sales year-on-year actual compared to budget, etc. Now, these are important, but here's the problem.
Makes a lot of sense to measure those.
Yeah, you've got to do that. That keeps the shareholders happy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but here's the problem with them. These are already historical by the time you find out what the number is.
Right.
They already happened last month. So that's why they call them lagging indicators.
Yes.
So if only there was a way that sales managers could find a KPI that was more predictive.
Yes, and predictive KPIs.
That's the challenge.
Behavior KPIs.
Behavioural KPIs. Right. So in other words, I know that if I do a certain number of calls or a certain number of proposals, that it's predictive in as much as I know I'm going to make my number by the end of the month.
Okay, so we're talking about the difference between lagging KPIs, which are financial, and behaviour KPIs, which are leading. So what are some of the leading KPIs sales managers should be developing and holding their team accountable to? And how do you develop those?
Well, that's the question, of course.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I think that the phrase reverse engineering...
Reverse engineering is one of my favourite terms.
Yeah.
So when you say reverse engineering, are we talking about reverse engineering sales success?
Mm-hmm. Yes, you could. I like to use an example in our training programs and on our videos of a fictitious character called Penny Wright. Now, Penny knows she has to get $100,000 of worth of sales every month, so that's her lagging indicator.
That's her financial indicator.
That's her number. Yeah. But in order to do that, she's got to figure out all of the activities, her leading indicators, that she has to do in order to achieve that. So,
tell us more.
Okay. Well, look, she's figured out. Our fictitious character has figured out that her average sale value is $10,000.
Okay, so that's an important thing to figure out, is your average sale value?
That's right. Now, it's not hard to do, is it? Yep. I mean, I know it varies from sale to sale, the value, but on average, she just simply takes her total number and she divides that by the number of invoices, and she gets $10,000 average.
Total value for the year or for the month and divided by invoices will give you your average value.
That's right. So working on her example, she knows she's got to get an average of 10 sales per month.
10 sales per month makes 100,000. That makes sense. That's easy math.
Yeah, we can work that one out.
Yeah, okay.
Now, she reverse engineers it because she also knows that for every 2 proposals that she presents, she will get 1 conversion. So you don't have to be a rocket scientist. How many presentations do we think that she has to do?
So if she does 2 presentations, she gets 1 sale.
Yeah.
So she's got a 50% conversion ratio, if my math is right.
Yeah, which means that if she needs to get 10 sales, she's got to present 20 proposals.
20 proposals.
Or quotes or whatever our viewers submit as part of their sales process.
So her sales manager would hold her accountable, is that right, on 20 presentations per month.
Exactly. And here's the point. The sales manager knows, and Penny knows, that if I don't or if she doesn't do 20 presentations, she's not going to make a number. It's predictive.
Yeah.
And likewise, if we reverse engineer it a step further backwards, we also know that for every 2 discovery meetings that she goes to find out the client needs and the client problems and issues, for every 2 of those, one of those will result in a request for a proposal. So how many discovery meetings does she has to attend every month in order to make a number? We know that she has to do 40. Yeah,
so that's how many a week?
40, that's about 10 a week. That's about 2 a day. Is that doable? I think that our viewers will agree that's entirely doable.
Yeah.
But bearing in mind that Penny is a fictitious character, this is just an example. The point that our viewers need to take to heart is, what are their numbers? Do they know how that varies from individual to individual? Because if they can figure that out, they can set up a system of leading indicators which are highly predictive. And just as is the case with Penny, they will then know if they don't do this number of meetings, if they don't do this number of proposals, or conversely, if they don't do this number of first calls, they're not going to make it.
Okay. One of the key bits of information in this equation is their conversion ratio. A lot of clients we talk to don't have that front of mind in terms of they don't understand the numbers, they don't understand their conversion. How would one go about understanding conversion ratios or backwards engineering success?
Well, I think a lot of that comes down to how they actually, about the systems that they use. Is that what you had in mind?
Yeah, look, I think before we get into the systems, it's a matter of understanding, like Penny knows her numbers. She knows for every 2 presentations, she gets 1 deal. Some of our clients aren't that sophisticated right now because they're not measuring. And I think once you start to measure, you can start to manage.
Well, so how hard is it to measure?
Yeah.
I mean, you should be able to find out in just a few short weeks exactly what your numbers are if you just keep count.
Do you think you can just put a placeholder in for now, like, making some educated guess on your conversion ratio, so it's a 2 to 1, and then really keep an eye on that, like sighting the rifle over time, and that'll become more accurate.
Definitely. When we work with our clients strategically in the initial stages of engagement, that's exactly what we do. We take an educated guess, we put a placeholder in place, and then their assigned executive coach just monitors that in the weeks and the months that follow, just as you say, resight the rifle, and then by the time they get to several weeks down the track, it's pretty accurate.
Okay, I think this really stresses the importance of having good systems in place and good measurements, because if you've got good systems and you're measuring the numbers, you're going to be a lot more accurate in terms of the conversion ratios and the actual leading activities that you need to do to overachieve your sales budgets. Would that be fair enough to...
Yeah, we do need to house that in a system, but there is a caveat here, and that is the numbers, as per Penny's example, will vary from person to person.
Yes, so it's not like you can set a set of numbers for the entire sales force. Do you have to treat every single salesperson in the company a little bit differently? Is that what you're saying?
That would be ideal if you've got a system that can house that.
Right.
But there are companies that do work on averages, and then that's a standard that everybody has to aspire to. You can look at it that way, and then you can go about setting goals for them. But we first have to understand what the individual performance level is, bearing in mind we are talking about high performance, and then set a goal to help them to increase their performance by upskilling them.
One of the traps that a lot of our clients fall into is being specific about the KPI. And what I mean by that is we've had many sales managers manage the amount of phone calls. I mean, that's an activity, isn't it?
It is an activity.
Amount of phone calls out. Is that the right KPI, or is there something inherently wrong with that?
Well, is it number of phone calls or number of actual conversations? I mean, I remember there was a person who actually used to work for us, and he said, "Hey, boss, I've done 80 calls today, and I think about 10 of them were at home."
My favourite question was, how many people did you speak to?
Yeah,
which it was a completely different number, like it might have been 4 or 5, right?
That's right, yeah. So, number of calls, if you want to measure it that way, you might do that, but how about just refining that and getting to actual results, such as number of conversations in that example?
Number of conversations with the right target market, that's a good measurement. What do you think?
You're really refining it,
Yeah, so I guess the learns from that is actually really defining and honing in on the right KPIs to measure.
Yeah, and there are some people who, who will get it right first time, and some people some managers will have a dabble with it, and then they realise down the track actually that's not a good measure. Certainly, of course, we can help, but the first thing is just to start, Paul.
Just to start,
because a lot of our customers have found that they've got the wrong KPIs. As I said, they're entirely around lagging indicators. If we can just start measuring the behaviours, and then, as you say, resight the rifle over time, we'll refine, reiterate. A few weeks, months later, we'll have it down to a science.
Okay, so, what about for the listeners out there that are saying, hey, we don't chase new business. Our business is different. We've got a very mature business. We manage our accounts, and it's all about growing our accounts, looking after our accounts, growing share of wallet. What sort of metrics would you suggest for an account manager?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, actually, and I get that a lot. A lot of our clients do have a sales force that's predominantly made of account managers with existing clients. There are other leading indicators that we can measure there. The example that we gave with Penny is about new business development. That's true.
Yes.
For account management, there could be important indicators such as number of re-signs, or number of clients that are visited to increase share of wallet. That is to expand the spend that they put in our direction.
So new business from existing accounts, is that what you're saying?
Exactly. New business from existing accounts. Hey, it could even be the call cycle. So
those would be lagging indicators, right? Because that's after the fact. So leading indicators would be call cycles?
Yeah, there would be call cycles.
Talk to me more about that.
There would be call cycles, like do we have agreement from customer to customer? Because it will vary from client to client as to how often they would like to be called on.
Right.
Some will say, look, I'll call you when I need you.
Yeah.
Some will say once a year. Some say once a quarter. And some will say every time you're visiting my region. So we need to get that sorted out per customer. That would be a KPI. The second thing would be, is there real emphasis on growing share of wallet, on growing the value of that customer? Because that's an easy sale. Why aren't we taking advantage of that?
So in terms of strategically growing your account base, is there a KPI that you can, like if you're a sales manager and you're wanting to rinse every ounce of value out of your accounts, how would you go about doing that, measuring it and putting KPIs in place?
Well, again, the activity would be around, firstly, do they have an account plan?
Account plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that account plan will have a whole lot of headings inside it.
Yes.
Such as what's our existing share of wallet and what is our share of wallet potential. For example, they could be spending money with one of our competitors as well as with us. What is our plan to going in and trying to get more of that market share within that particular account? That's a leading indicator, particularly if there are meetings involved where they'll have discussions about growing that share of wallet.
Hey, look, I think we can go into a lot of detail on that strategic account management plan. Maybe that's a podcast for a future date.
I can see another podcast on this.
I guess the point that you're trying to emphasise is that an account plan should be a KPI. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it should be.
We should be measuring how many strategic account plans we have with our key clients?
Yeah, that should be a KPI, but there's also KPIs within the account plan as well.
Oh, within the account plan.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
such as number of share of wallet meetings, for example.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And I guess number of other people in the buying process, or
yes, do they know all the stakeholders that are in there? Again, have they established a call cycle, etc.? When we talk about account management, are we talking about coffee and donut calls,
right?
Where nothing really much happens? Or are we talking about actual activity where we strategically go about A, making sure that the expectations are being met,
right?
B, so make sure we secure them for long term so we retain the account,
yes,
and C, grow the account.
So what you're saying is never make a call without an objective.
Yeah. And then that's regardless of whether it's a new prospect or an existing client.
And measure everything, even if it's existing business, and have an account plan for that. Okay.
So those are examples of KPIs for new business and for account management.
Right. So if we sort of transition now into, we've got the KPIs set. I mean, we're still trying to answer that question in terms of how do we hold people accountable to those KPIs. We've set the KPIs. Now what?
Well, we can go into a discussion about having one-on-ones with our staff to make sure that they're doing the correct activity.
And how often do we have one-on-ones?
The recommendation is weekly. And the simple reason is this: if they do it, say, monthly, for example, by the time the sales manager finds out they're behind on something, it's too late. So they need to be able to give them regular direction, mentoring, coaching, so that they do the right activity over the next week, and try to curb any negative trends before that end of the month gets too close.
Right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is they need to be able to house those KPIs onto some sort of platform.
So some sort of platform, we're talking about platforms like a system.
Yep.
So I guess it's uber critical that we have good systems to be able to keep those KPIs visible.
Yep. And
transparent,
that's
would
right.
you say?
Yeah, and automatically probably some of our viewers are probably thinking, CRM. Now, look, that might be the case, but look, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's a lot of systems out there, and it really depends on finding a system that works for individual companies. I've seen some companies use spreadsheets very effectively.
Yes.
I've been to, you can tell the sales-led organisations because they have all their KPIs, leading KPIs, lagging KPIs on a wall.
Yep.
It's either called the wall of fame for some salespeople or the wall of shame. It depends where you are on the ladder. You're either walking in, beating your chest or walking with your head down and your tail between your legs.
You know what I've found is that in my days as a sales manager, long time ago, Paul, is that if you have a wall of fame or shame or a leaderboard, if you like, the sales team tend to gather around it, and there's a little bit of friendly banter amongst them as to who's going to win that month or who's going to, or who's just keeping up with who that month. They tend to self-evaluate and self-manage.
I think salespeople are inherently competitive. No one wants to be down the bottom. So having good systems, having good KPIs in place and making it visible is a really good way to develop high-performing teams.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier for sales manager to manage behaviour, don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like to use the phrase a sales manager has to manage sales.
Right.
Just reverse their title.
It makes a lot of sense.
That's their job. I mean, so with the KPIs in place, with the systems in place, it enables them to do just that. But I mean, do you have a particular favourite in terms of system to be able to house and to use as a management tool?
Well, yeah, we use several systems in the business. One's a spreadsheet which shows us our lagging indicators, so our financial indicators, and that's really, really important to see how we're tracking both month to date, year to date, from an individual point of view, from a company perspective. But the thing that's my favourite is a pipeline management tool called Membrane.
Membrane?
Yeah, so what Membrane does is it takes our sales process. We talked about sales process in a previous podcast.
Yes.
And we talked about the importance of having milestone-centric sales processes. So what I love about Membrane is it has enabled us to take a sales process and turn it into an electronic version so you can measure the behaviour of salespeople through the process. You can measure deals. You can see how healthy your pipeline is. And what I like about it is I sleep easy at night because here's the one thing it does for us. It enables us to have very accurate forecasting.
Okay, well, that's
I know what money's coming into the business.
That's going to keep the sales manager happy because they get booted by the chief executive if the forecast is not quite right.
I mean, there's some beautiful features within that system, Membrane. Like you can measure win-loss ratio, you can measure velocity, you can start to put the science behind sales success by measuring conversion ratios of the team, of individuals, and it really gives you the insights on developing high-performing salespeople. So that's what we're using. Well, look, we can go into way more detail in a later podcast, but we'll keep this one pretty short.
That sounds like a whole discussion.
What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. But the point that you're making in summary is that gives you visibility so that you can hold people to account on those KPIs.
Absolutely. So there's some insights for today. We've talked about KPIs and the importance of having KPIs. Measure everything. Make it visible. You become what you measure. And if you don't measure it, you can't manage it. So that's it for Alex and I today. Hope you got a lot of value from this session. We'll see you in a later broadcast. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.